Hello, this is Christian Idealism, and today I wanted to explain to you guys two types of defeat. So in my last video, I kind of explained what the defeat condition was, why it's important to theodicy, and where it came from. Today I'm going to offer kind of two ways of understanding the defeat condition, or at least two, distinctions we can make. Okay, and again, this is an idea that me and my friend Tim Howard came up with. So this is fairly novel, so be prepared that what you're going to hear in this video is quite novel in this sense because it hasn't been written yet. Anyways, so here's a distinction you can make. So, of course, what is the defeat condition? Well, briefly, the defeat condition says that an evil is defeated when it is integrated as a part of a value composable whole, such that that whole could not be as valuable as it was without the evil or the evil part of that whole. So typically it's understood as an aesthetic condition for theodicy. So it's a meta-theodical consideration. Now, here's the distinction. Okay, so there's two kinds of defeats that we can understand. The first kind of defeat is what I like to term therapeutic defeat. So that's the first one. Then the second one is what I like to call existential defeat. Well, what's the distinction? So now I'm going to explain. So therapeutic defeat is typically the defeat that we see in our world, right? So let's say, hypothetically, we have someone that is drafted in the military and they have to go and fight and, they don't want to do it, right? And they have to, they experience horrific suffering. So they see their comrades being killed. They see dead people all over the place. They go into, let's say they go into a concentration camp or something for a few years, right? And then they get out, right? And then after that fact, they go to therapy and they go through PTSD, therapeutic treatment. And then finally, they actually, later on in life, they're like, I actually see, even though the suffering that I went through, I wouldn't wish that upon anyone else. I don't regret going through it. I can recognize that me going through that experience, me going through that suffering has actually contributed to my identity as a person, and I can grow from it, right? So that's a therapeutic defeat. And typically, I think the most prime example of this is what you see in typically Holocaust survivors. So Viktor Frankl is a prime example of this, where he was able to find the meaning in the suffering that he went through, just given that he was a Holocaust survivor, right? Now, of course, I would say that most people do not experience that kind of defeat, even in this life. And so it's going to be kind of challenging, when it comes to problem evil related stuff, whether that's always going to be the case. But that's just one kind of type of defeat. Now, what about the other type of defeat? What about existential defeat? And what's the characteristic of this? Well, existential defeat is actually a much stronger notion. Okay, so while existential defeat does include a therapeutic element to it, it also includes a sense in which not only have I defeated the evil, not only have I recognized that the evil is a part of my identity, not only have I been able to narrativize the evil as something that's, overall has been something that made the person who I am, I would actually want to relive that experience over and over again. Okay? Now, why is this important? Well, existential defeat includes an element of what I like to term infinite compensation. Okay? Now, of course, with that in mind, existential defeat does require an afterlife. It does require that any creature that went through suffering must be able to have infinite compensation so that they can view their overall life as infinitely valuable. Okay? And so that's the important distinction, right? And so while a lot of people can experience therapeutic defeat, only God can actually allow a creature to go through what's called existential defeat. And the reason for that is because with existential defeat, not only are you given therapeutic treatment, but you are also given infinite compensation such that you would actually want to relive your life over and over and over again, right? So in that scenario, there is no possible sense in which a creature who experiences, who has gone through existential defeat actually says like, oh, I wouldn't want to go through that. No, from their perspective, they would be totally fine going through the horrific stuff that they went through over and over again because of the infinite compensation that they would receive in the afterlife, right? So that's the important thing, which is that they see the good of their life so valuable because of the infinite compensation that they're going to receive, that any suffering that they went through is just infinitely small in comparison. And so that's the important distinction. With therapeutic defeat, anyone could do that. Like a therapist could, a really good therapist could probably do it. But with existential defeat, only God can achieve that because of the infinite compensation aspect. And so, yeah, that's the distinction. And of course, what I would argue is that if theism is true, if God exists, then for any creature that has ever existed that has gone through any level of suffering, they will experience, on my model, this idea of existential defeat, right, in the afterlife. And so in that sense, then, no creature from that perspective at that point of time is ever going to regret that they the life that they had. And so that's pretty much it. That's pretty much the distinction. In my next video, just a little, well, actually, I'll tell you guys what my next video is later. Anyways, have a nice day.